I see that there are a few people still joining us, but to be respectful of our time, I'm going to get started. Hi, welcome back for some of you, and great to see some new faces as people join us. On behalf of the National Endowment for the Arts and BAVC Media, I'm here to officially welcome you to the start of our quarterly field meeting for the Independent Film and Media Arts Group, which we also refer to with the acronym of IMAG. My name is Dawn Valadez. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm on the unceded land of the Chenango Ramaytush Ohlone, also known as the San Francisco Bay Area. I am the Director of Youth and Artist Development and the co-director of BAVC Media Maker Fellowship. I'm on the board of the Berkeley Film Foundation, and I'm the treasurer of the newly founded International Access Coalition. I am a light-skinned Chicana, middle-aged, with short purple and blue hair, wearing a red wrap. And my background is a multicolored BAVC media logo. For those of you who are new to this group, IMAG is part of the Independent Film and Media Field Building Initiative, which is a collaborative between the National Endowment for the Arts, BAVC Media, and all of you. This is an initiative that brings together the vast network of networks across the field and promotes regional activity focused on strengthening communities and advancing equity and career sustainability for individuals working in the film and media industries. Aspirationally, we aim for IMAG to evolve as our industry evolves through exchanges of best practices, research, and sharing of works in progress. We will put the links to the IMAG initiative webpage and registration form, and we'd love to have you share and invite anyone in your network. This network is for everyone, makers, creators, administrators, everyone across our industries. Today, we have a really special program. I'm super excited. We're going to have a Southern flavor happening today, which is really cool. We have some really great guests joining us. We have the Indie Media Arts South, which is a regional collective working to support and uplift independent filmmakers and arts organizations across the Greater South. And they will report on their current goals, structure, strategies, and lessons learned over the handful of years since their formation. We're going to hear from Curtis Cesar John, the Luminary Theater from the Luminary Theater and BLK Docs, and Molly Murphy from Working Films. There's going to be some time for Q&A after their presentation with the intention of helping folks envision what organizing could be like in your own regions. After that, our second session will have brief presentations from across the field with some time for questions. Carlton Turner from the Mississippi Center for Cultural Production and Kathleen Brown, Fulton County Arts and Culture Public Arts Futures Lab. It's all really exciting. We're going to hear some new things that are happening and also learn from people's experiences. And lastly, we close with our resource open mic, and we invite members of IMAG to share important updates, events, or programs with the group. So now I'm going to pass my baton to my colleague, Brittany, who's going to do some housekeeping and tell us a little bit about how this meeting is structured.
Thank you, Dawn. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. Here's just a few housekeeping notes. Hello and welcome, everyone. Please take a moment to add your pronouns to your name in Zoom and your organization. Introduce yourself in the chat with your name, organization, your location, and please add your land acknowledgement, including land back actions in your region if you know any. Continue to use the chat throughout the day to engage with your fellow community members. Use the Q&A function to directly propose questions for panelists, moderators, and event hosts. We appreciate your presence here today. This meeting is being recorded and will be archived for future viewing. Please take care of yourself and take breaks as needed. Keep your camera on as much as you are able and feel comfortable with. It's great to see everyone who's here. This is a long meeting, but it will go pretty fast. We need to stay on schedule, so we'll gently let people know when their time is up. Please have grace with yourself and others. We are human and mistakes are normal. And if you're coming on camera, I'm going to put something in the in the chat to help you with personal characteristics and self-description. Great. Sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. There we go.
Okay, so I'm going to pass the mic to Molly. Take it away.
Molly, you're on mute.
All right. That's for that grace that everyone said you're giving. So yeah, I'll say that all again to you instead of just to myself. I'm Molly Murphy. My pronouns are she, her. I am on the land of the Cape Fear, the Waccamaw-Siouan, the Lumbee tribes, and other people who have been erased. At the same time, people were removed forcibly from the coast of North Carolina. People were also brought here forcibly and enslaved. So yeah, I'm on the coast of North Carolina and Wilmington. I am part of the organizing committee of Indie Media Arts South, and I represent Working Films as part of the network, which I'll tell you more about later. I am a white woman. I am in the US South. I have dark brown hair. I have dangly gold earrings. I have a dark green shirt on, and I have a background that speaks to the network that we're part of, which is Indie Media Arts South. And I'm going to pass it to my colleague, Curtis.
Thank you, Molly. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Sorry I'm not on video. I was having some connectivity issues. But my name is Curtis Caesar John. I am the founder and executive director of the Luminal Theater. Um, and I'm also one of the people on the organizer committee for Indie Media Arts South. The Luminal is located in out of Columbia, South Carolina, which is the traditional ancestral land of the Cherokee and the Congaree people. And South Carolina, unfortunately, was also the one of the biggest slave ports in the United States. Actually, the biggest, unfortunately. But the work that we're doing is rectifying a lot of those negatives that come out of that. So, thank you for having us here. So just wanted to let you all know a little bit more about the history of Indie Media Arts South, um, which we lovingly call IMAS. Indie Media Arts South was born from a national independent, excuse me, sorry. Indie Media Arts South was born from a national independent media arts collective created by the Sundance Institute and the NEA. And our part of the greater IMAG group is our Southern regional organization working to really support and uplift the work of Southern filmmakers across the greater South. Um, IMAS was founded in 2020 and really created to bring a lot of the makers together, but filmmakers and folks like the work that me and Molly do. I mean, it's also about uh, workers or arts organizations, everyone and mostly anyone working within filmmaking and film organizations across the Greater South. A lot of the work that we do is really about fostering opportunities to create face-to-face, in-person community events, and we have a monthly event that allows us. We have monthly, meetings that allow us to do so. We can go to the next slide, please. IMAS is open to all and seeks a diverse regional membership that is invested in building community-driven systems of support for independent media makers in the South. We focus on building broad and diverse networks that fight extractive storytelling and support nuanced ethical visions of life in the Southern United States. And we straighten the creative ecosystem by uniting visual artists, arts organizations, and film festivals to advance equity and sustainability in the United States, in the Southern region of the United States. So our membership, we currently boast over 500 members representing arts organizations, as I mentioned, film festivals, and media makers across the South. And we really convene this at regular field building meetings that are monthly. I can't recall last time we actually missed a month, no matter if it was 7 of us in a group or 25 of us in a room or more of us in a room. We always make sure to gather in that monthly space to share what's going on in our lives, but then also to speak about different aspects of things that are happening within the film world, but even more specifically, of course, the film world in the South. But these peer networking groups, we share knowledge on filmmaking friendly policies, best practices, sustainable strategies for supporting independent media artists, and filmmakers, and of course, other things like fundraising and such. So as a mostly volunteer powered collective, our structure and our working group focus is iterative. We are evolving with the needs of our members and adapting to our members and organizer committee capabilities, capacity, and interests.
Yeah, so indie media arts, we really have kind of this ebb and flow. There's really an organic nature to it that we'll talk about how it's responsive to the members that take part. And just to give you an idea of the structure, we're kind of held down and our leadership is made up of what we call an organizing committee. And this is the committee that kind of steps up to help define and create the guiding structure and the direction of the collective. We meet monthly and we meet more often if we need to, if there are things that are coming up that we want to respond to. And we have subcommittees within the organizing committee that allows us to kind of focus our energy where we're best suited and to really kind of tap the expertise and what our passions are to serve the collective. And then not all members have to participate. So right now, our active subcommittees of the organizing committee are a programming committee, a communications committee, and a fundraising committee. The programming committee is just launched a works in progress program at the Hot Springs Film Festival, and that's about to have a new iteration to likely happen online and at film festivals throughout the coming year and beyond, because we were inundated with interest of submissions of people who wanted to be a part of that works in progress program. So we're just kind of riding on that interest to serve the membership and tapping the people who want to step up to organize these to allow them to do so. Our communications team sends out a monthly newsletter and keeps our presence on social media. And then there's a fundraising committee that has been able to generate resources for our presence at various film festivals and to put together materials to help us fundraise for our efforts. And you can see just, I don't know if you recognize any of the people in these pictures, but we have individual filmmakers, we have film festival directors and programmers, we have academics, we have people outside of film that are working in other art forms. So it's a really diverse network. And as Curtis said before, it represents both artists and industry and people throughout the sector. Throughout the beginning of IMAS forming, we have put resources toward a coordinator, essentially an administrative manager who really kind of keeps us all herded and aligned. And they essentially track our membership, they support the programming, they host and set up our virtual meetings, they manage the meeting notes, they put forward the next steps for the organizing committee, they support the communications work, support getting these things out. And I think, we all agree that having a coordinator position in place has been something that's enabled this regional network to thrive. These are resources, I'll say too, that we've raised or organizations who are part of IMAS have contributed through their own budgets when they have like a programmatic alignment. We also have working groups that are part of the broader membership, and this gives you a look at just some of the past working groups that again come and go. Right now, we don't have an active working group. The program group is reaching out to membership, and the idea is that the programming committee will include members and organizing committee members. But in the past, it's included a focus on ethics and accountability in filmmaking, because extractive filmmaking is something that has plagued our region. Also looking at how to create ways for filmmakers to grow their audiences and to have programming that really lifts up Southern work. And then also looking at ways to focus on representation and communities that have been pushed to the margins and really trying to steward resources to them in the South. Pass.
Yeah, thank you, Molly.
Mhm.
Yes. And the thing is, I mean, this may seem obvious, but it needs to be said. We don't assume that we know. I mean, and I'm talking about the members of the organizing committee who put together the meetings and have the guest speakers and such for it. We don't necessarily assume that we know what's plaguing or what the issues are that our members are going through. I mean, we do it as in some manner because obviously the organized committee, are all working artists and arts organizations in the South, but we reach out continually to our members to make sure that the topics that we speak about are responsive to who they are and what's happening to them in the world. So we work to be very responsive to our membership. And as the slide beautifully puts, identifying what the desires are for the entire collective. So to make sure that we're properly serving the needs of the artists and of our industry, for filmmakers and media makers and arts organizations in the South. And so one of the ways that we do this regularly is through a survey that we've done a few times. And so we created this member survey to really mostly understand what the needs and wants are of our membership. So in other words, we don't just conduct it with the people who are at the meetings, but we send out the survey to our 500 plus members, or did send out the surveys to 500 plus members, to help really understand how we can help them grow their organizations, their filmmaking practices and such. And so then we take those needs of our filmmaker community and work to develop specific initiatives that really support their work. And this may also seem a bit obvious, but this was exactly the case that we gleaned from our most recent survey, is that most people have problems at getting access to funding and getting connections to the people and to networks that will make their practice grow even stronger. And so in 2024 alone, we've had a number of guest speakers that speak to all these issues that the members really wanted help with. And so we've had a number of guest speakers throughout this year, experienced fundraisers, experienced filmmakers, film festival programmers, grant organizations to help to help our members really figure out how to grow their membership. And I'll just do a little quick read of some of our speakers this year. So we had Erica Taylor from the Documentary Producers Alliance, who spoke on equity and inclusion in January. William Whitaker from Shobla, who spoke about legal advice for media makers. That was a I mean, they were all fantastic, but I was at that one. That was really extremely helpful. We helped William a little late on that one because obviously legal issues are um, very pertinent to a lot of the filmmakers um, in our region. Um, then we had Clara Lehman and Jonathan Lecoq from Coat of Arms, speaking on sustaining a filmmaking career. And Jonathan is actually also one of our organizer committee members. Um, we had Abby Sun, who I'm sure a lot of you know from the IDA. Um, Abby joined us in July to speak about fundraising for Southern filmmakers. And if you've never been in a room with Abby speaking about almost anything, but especially something like funding, it's essential. So that was also one that we kept Abby a little late that time as well. Um, and we had Dan Cantagalo. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan, I'm messing up your name. Dan Cantagalo. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, Dan. Who spoke about sales and distribution in this past August. In October, we had Gabe Van Ambro, who spoke about how to run like a large film festival. Gabe is from South by Southwest, which many of you know and I'm sure you've been to. Um, and then in November, we had Andy Volk from the Austin Film Festival, also speaking about film festival work, but mainly speaking about curating filmmaker feedback. Um, and so that was all very, very really successful. And so when you see the gaps in the months, um, so like May, September, we did have meetings those days, but that was mostly those meetings were very specifically talking, just us getting together to talk about different things going on in the industry and check-ins and such. So
Yeah. And so the other way to be responsive about the desire for connections between, our members and other people in the broader film industry, both in our region and outside of our region that we've done is to really make sure that we have a presence. And this is all the way back in 2022 when NEA and the Sundance Institute came together with IMAS at the New Orleans Film Festival. But we made it a point to really kind of have a presence where we go. To invite people who are in the South that might want to be part of the network to gather and to have meetups and have different ways of promoting the members of IMAS. In 2024, we've been really active. We were fortunate to receive, well, first we kind of approached and asked for support from the Jonathan Logan Family Foundation and later from the MacArthur Foundation to underwrite some of the costs for artists and industry in the South to be able to show up and have a presence. And so we've done that at South by Southwest, at the Atlanta Film Festival, the Southern Documentary Funds convening. And at that, we both, we hosted a screening event, how to meet up at South by Southwest, how to mixer at Atlanta, at Full Frame. We're part of a speakeasy conversation. We had a present at Sidewalk Film Festival in Alabama, again at the New Orleans Film Festival. We were in Hot Springs this year. We were part of a panel at Double Exposure about our presence in the region and kind of filmmaking and doing the work in our ecosystem in the South. And we're about to get together at the Koukoris Film Festival. We'll be gathering at Sundance and then also at the Miami Film Festival. So that's something we did kind of approach funders and are continuing to raise funds. And those funds have gone not just to holding events, but also to underwrite the passes and travel for participants. So we've been able, like even, for example, at the Hot Springs Film Festival, I think 45 passes were underwritten as well as some of the travel support. So it's just so important to our members to be able to interface with others, both in the South and nationally. And we really have prioritized that in our work. Let me get my... And we also, as I mentioned, as I'm speaking about funding, we do have a fundraising committee, which we're very fortunate to have some really experienced fundraisers. This is a committee that I serve on because part of my responsibilities at Working Films is fundraising. And there's a couple of ways that we've done it. We've had some crowdsourced, like GoFundMe efforts. that members and other people who are just interested in supporting this kind of network in the South have contributed to. We're working on sponsorship materials to kind of have tiers of support for IMAS, which can support the various ways that we're serving our members. And also, can include co-sponsoring events that we're holding. And then we pursue grant applications with funders as well. So we're kind of actively fundraising just for our regional network of IMAS. Oh, you touch on this, Curtis?
Thank you, Molly. So just some more takeaways just about, all of our work. Our hope is to really spark ideas and create pathways for other regional independent media organizations to support Southern storytellers and media makers. We hope these, audiential learnings can act as like a foundation for you all to form and or to revitalize a collective or a small group like within your area as well. And so some of these takeaways we're going to be sharing are, really helped IMAS in its effort to like create a sustainable, very important, and diverse regional membership that's, really invested in like building community-driven systems of support for media makers in the South. And so, the next slide.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, thank you. These are a few that really helped ground us. I'm just going to read the main thing, the main headline part is to think regional and to think local. And the next one is, and Molly spoke a bit about this, but I also can't, emphasize this enough to have this paid coordinator administrative manager. That is really truly key to just like holding everything together. Is to have someone paid to really organize us in the way we need to. Everyone in the organizer committee, all of our membership, all of our members are extremely busy people. And so to have someone doing that is extremely key, very, very key. Next. And to make sure we have those monthly meetings regularly, obviously, as you're growing, as you're beginning, it might not be able to be monthly, you kind of have to go with the flow. But for us, it helps to have that space for everyone to go to and to know that we're going to be there at this specific day of the week, which I believe for us, it's we usually meet on Thursdays, unless there's like something like a Thanksgiving type of week or something, we might raise it to a week earlier, or some type of big holiday. But outside of that, we do it like the third Thursday of every month. And with us, we usually also have breakout groups so that we can speak a lot more to like certain aspects of things that we're speaking about within our meetings and such. So, and those breakout groups, as it says here, open to subcommittees and subgroups where, it can help galvanize efforts within our membership to, help avoid volunteer member burnout, and burdens as well. Next. We spoke a little bit about this, but it was really helpful, the survey that helped us collate the data to help us understand a lot more about how to really align the goals of an organization with the membership. And the data from those surveys really helped us attract those special guests that we went through earlier, and sponsors, and of course funders as well, and to help plan future meetings and events. And visibility. So by collaborating with grantors, film festivals, and other arts organizations, we're really like how we're doing here. We're able to like meet. We're able to build this like wider network, regionally, of course, but then also across the nation, because Southern filmmakers obviously are making work in the South and for the South, but also for the world, for the United States and for the world. And so we need those wider connections that really help others in other regions like really understand the work of filmmakers from the South, because the work that we do in the South can be a bit different, and it's also seen differently at times, and so those connections are really key, and us being visible to make those connections are key.
Yeah, And just so you know, it's not just me and Curtis vouching for Indie Media Arts South. We just gathered a few kind of testimonies from our members just to share kind of why does Indie Media Arts South matter to them. And you can see, what Megan, who's a filmmaker, shared is essentially, it's provided some confidence in pursuing a career in documentary filmmaking in the South. It's a place where connections can be nurtured, there's space for it, and we've been able to provide opportunities for Megan to be able to attend film festivals and convenings in our region. And Jeanette Levert, who is an incredible filmmaker and a professor, also, talks about what it's like in our region and what having this group means, and that she's not alone. We really are working to build a thriving ecosystem in the South, and it's just critically important. And I think that's why we have such an active and engaged membership, is just the desire and the richness of our region and the excitement that people have through coming together. And then Jordan Young, who is doesn't only work in film, but also works in dance. And we have members that are outside of filmmaking. It just talks about these monthly spaces that we have. We really get to know each other. The breakout groups that Curtis mentioned are a time to kind of problem solve things with each other, to share our projects, to kind of just have space to have a sounding board and to build movement and coalition with others. And Curtis, it's up to you if we kind of want to take questions on IMAS before we share out about our own work. What do you think?
Yeah, I say we should.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm going to cut my screen share for a moment, and we will just want to, kind of entertain any questions that you have.
Well,
So-
go ahead.
I was just going to say I think I saw 2 questions in the chat, which we can maybe start with. Curtis, while you were talking about the survey, Vera asked if that survey could be shared.
Sure.
I think we should check with our organizing committee before we share that. But yeah, I mean, we will check with our organizing committee to see whether that's something we should be sharing out or not, because while it was anonymous there, it is key information. So yeah. But
Yeah.
again, the key findings were really about connections and funding. What I can do, at least immediately though, not to take up too much time, but I can just share a couple other little things that some folks mentioned in that. I'm just glancing through it right now. Some of it was like education opportunities and resources. Some other people were interested in traveling, programming, which is like actually technically the work that I do. That's not why I picked it. I'm just going through the survey. And yeah, no, a lot of it was really just figuring out ways to raise money and how to monetize their work better. So yeah. But we'll let you know, everyone.
Thank you. And then I'm trying to find the other question, but it got lost in the chat for me. Oh, yes. Someone said, I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a licensed attorney as well as a lobbyist at the state legislature. How can I help with your efforts?
That's wonderful. One thing about IMAS that's interesting is, by and large, we are made up of professionals in the arts in the South, but we also have members who are just passionate about the South, that believe in supporting storytelling in the South, that want to be able to, offer their skills and whatever resources they have to the region. So we would love for you to be in touch. There's definitely people within our region that need legal advice. If there's anything pro bono like that, as you saw on the slide that Curtis shared, we've also featured people with legal expertise that many people need in our field, both as the nonprofits in our field or organizations, and also as artists in our field. So we can make sure that you have our follow-up contact info to be in touch with us to do that. Which I'm so used to typing in the organizing committee email. I quite honestly have to look up our other email address. Are there any questions before we move on?
I put a question in the chat.
Great, please.
I'm wondering like about what you personally, Molly and Curtis, why this regional organizing work has been meaningful to you and the work that you do in the last few years, and maybe what your hopes are for the future of IMAS and like organizing media artists in the South.
Yeah, Curtis, do you want to start? This will be part of what we present. We're going to share case studies on our work, and that will be part of what we include. But Curtis, do you want to name any top lines?
Yeah, I will. I would say it's mainly the connections. So, when I was speaking just right before about the survey, I was talking, we spoke I was speaking a bit about funding and connections in those ways, but it's really just about connections to the greater, to everyone working in the South. I mean, and in various capacities. Like my organization is an arts organization, but we deal directly with films and filmmakers, of course, right? And so, just being further connected to where everyone throughout the South is, what they're doing and how they're doing it, because there's a lot of innovative filmmakers. In one of our fundraising videos, one of our organized committee members, Jessica Krishman, spoke very beautifully about just how scrappy filmmakers in the South are, which I think is a perfect term, which is a little bit different from the hustle of New York. It's getting by on the resources that you have in possession, which often down here, unfortunately, can be a lot less than in the big media market. So it's really about connections, from me, and for members of my organization, in joining IMAS.
Yeah.
And it's been extremely helpful, I should also say. That's why I'm still here.
Yeah, same. I would just say my rootedness in documentary film as the medium that I most work with is because of its movement building, as its ability to be a movement building resource. And what excites me about IMAS and keeps me just passionate and really involved and willing to honestly do things on weekends and nights that don't feel like work. And there's no one has to do that for indie media arts South. It's just that sometimes I'll get excited about it because there is this opportunity and it is so thriving to build a really thriving network and movement of Southern artists in a way that I haven't seen exist since I've been doing this work the last 25 years. So I think just the passion that people bring, their experiences in this place that has historically been hugely under-resourced, kind of the commitment to equity and to making sure that underrepresented voices in the South are those that are lifted up the most, as well as addressing extractive storytelling and just kind of the organic nature that people are able to pursue their passions within the group. And move on things in a way that feels really emergent and really hugely needed. So yeah, I'm just, I don't know, it's been a really fulfilling experience, and I'm constantly just I don't know, impressed by those who take part in the member meetings and then also within the organizing committee to help steward it forward. I don't know if there were any other questions right now, and if not, we can start to share out about our work. Okay, well, yeah, this next section really is intended to kind of speak to, like, kind of share, the organizations we come with and why we're part of Indie Media Arts South, but also give you a glimpse of just two of the individuals that are part of IMAS. And so I'm going to screen share and you can begin once I do, Curtis.
Great, thank you, Molly. So yeah, again, Curtis Caesar John. I represent the Luminal Theater. I am their executive director. The Luminal's been around since was founded in 2015, but we originally actually began in Brooklyn, New York, um, and we moved our operations down to South Carolina in early 2020, right before the pandemic, which obviously had its set of issues in doing things, but as I mentioned right before, like just 2 minutes ago, you know, as an organization, we're used to being very innovative and rolling with punches. We are what I describe as, or what we describe as a nomadic micro cinema. And basically that means that we operate up and down the Eastern Seaboard, bringing different types of um, Black film culture to different areas of the United States, but we are based primarily in the South and do a lot of our core programming in the South as well. Um, our just to read directly from the slide, our fully curated exhibitions of diverse and complex cinema and media of the Black diaspora allows our artists to present their work within our what we call our unique brand of shared audience experiences. Our work is really we really work to be a bridge between independent Black filmmakers and audience members. You Unfortunately, a lot of times filmmakers, especially indie filmmakers, their work, yes, gets presented at film festivals, but past that and past between that and just having the work online is really difficult for them to create audiences and find audiences to share their works and to have their works reach the people they made them for. And so we work to be a bridge in between those filmmakers, connecting with Black audiences in different places. And I will say also that it's also key that unfortunately a lot of times like there it still is within the Black community. Um, we don't always feel safe in going to certain spaces. So even though there are many, many, many throughout the nation, but even in the South as well, of course, arts, um, arts nonprofits, art houses that put on some good programming. A lot of times outside of certain festivals, they don't really show stuff that's made for us. And even when they do, we're just not used to going to those things, or going to those places and don't really feel safe in those spaces because some of those spaces, unfortunately, didn't allow us in um, everywhere. But especially in the South, did not allow us to be within those spaces, within those theaters. And if we were, it was relegated to, not the best of areas within those theaters. So we work to be a bridge in between all of that to create opportunities and safe spaces for audience members to enjoy the films that we create. Not sorry, that not that we create, that we exhibit for them. We can go to the next slide, Molly, please. And so our vision for doing that is threefold. Um, these are three tenets of our organization. The Luminal Theater is a home, the Luminal Theater is a hub, and the Luminal Theater is a cultural steward. We are a home for Black film that is thorough and that is rooted and centered and is fluid and ever present. And when we say fluid, we mean that we roll with the punches. We go to different places. You'll see this in the programming from the next slide or from the next few slides. We're not encumbered by, oh, you can go back, Molly, to the first one, to the previous
Okay.
one, I'm sorry. We're not encumbered by being in a theater. We do call ourselves a theater because that is what we are, even though we are nomadic and present in different places. But we don't just present within theaters in the dark, um, four walls, all those things, you know. We present in a lot of different types of areas. Um, we try to have things that are open and spacious. And as I said, we'll see a little bit of that in the next slide, but we'll stay on this one for a minute. Um, the Luma Theater is a hub. We strive to bond cultural kin with warmth and curatorial acumen, meaning that actually also centers us within a safe space. You know, we create programming and create atmospheres, especially um, that, yes, do take the Black film programming seriously, that do try to connect independent films and sometimes also even some popular films with audiences, but then also do so in a thoughtful way, and creating, again, and this is very key to us, creating like really safe spaces for people to be able to enjoy the films that we bring them there for. And the last part, we assume the responsibilities necessary to bond Black audiences to Black cinema through consistency and community. Um, yeah, we work to have continuous programming, uh, to make sure that we are able to provide these films and these filmmakers to our audiences, um, and create safe spaces, great spaces for them to be able to enjoy these films. And we go next slide, and our programming will show that. So three of our key programs I'm going to highlight here. The first one is Black Docs. Black Docs, we formed that in 2020 along with Speller Street Films. If you all don't know, Speller Street Films is a great filmmaking organization currently based out of Wilmington, North Carolina. Christopher Everett. I know Molly has worked with Chris. A lot of y'all know Chris because he also works currently at Southern Documentary um, Fund, right? Sorry, I'm too many acronyms at SDF. But so we formed, and I should add, we've been showing Chris's work for a number of years, and Chris and I had always spoken about, you know, how can we do better for the Black documentary community. And so we formed Black Docs in 2020. We plan to form it beyond the pandemic again. Um, but then it also created a great opportunity for us to connect virtually with audiences and then afterwards in person. And that initiative is really to help build an authentic documentary film community within the African American community through film screenings, webinars, and interactive film events, but focusing on the work of Black documentary directors very specifically. Um, there's fantastic works on Black subjects from directors of all walks of life. But we found that unfortunately, a lot of times that the work of non-Black directors for Black subject films were not really getting the attention they should be getting, especially outside of some film festivals, or sometimes not even at film festivals. And so Black Docs was really created to help amplify the work of those films. Um, we started mainly focusing on the work of contemporary films, but then also started going back to doing some classic films. So last year, um, we presented the the restored version of Haile Gerima's Wilmington 10 USA 10,000, which is like seriously one of the most beautiful documentaries I've ever seen in my entire life. It's you see the influence that Haile Gerima's work, and if you're not familiar with Haile Gerima, he directed Sankofa, Ashes and Embers, but he's not really known especially for his documentary work. But the Wilmington 10 USA 10,000 was restored by the Harvard Archive. Um, I'm sorry, by the Academy. Sorry, we have so many films. I have so many films in my head. I'm just confusing one with the other. It's restored by the Academy, the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences Academy. Thank you, Brittany, for putting that link in there. A couple years back, and surprisingly, but not surprisingly, because this is exactly why we're around, there was it in those 2 years before it was restored. I mean, when it was after it was restored, there had been no screenings in Wilmington of this film, and it had actually, even the original version had not shown in over 20 years. And so we were able to, and I should have had a picture, but I can share one later. Um, we were able to also invite members of the Wilmington 10, four of them who were still alive. One of them passed since then. This was last around this time last year. No, it was yeah, early November last year actually. We were able to invite them, including Reverend Ben Chavis, who used to head the NAACP. He was able to come through at the last minute, and that was a fantastic event just to have them there to see that film after so long. Really transformative. Um, but we also showed in the past few years, and there's just a few, we've shown many, the picture taker. That's what we have on that slide right below. We did that in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and we were able to show that film at the Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum, which is actually now being expanded to it's in a small-ish space, and now it's being expanded to a large museum. But Cecil Williams is also a civil rights photographer, and you've definitely seen his work. But this film, The Picture Taker, really spoke to a civil rights photographer who unfortunately was also an FBI informant. So very powerful film. And also other films, Unapologetic, Digging for Weldon Irving, various ones. Sake of time, I'm going to move on. Films at the Farm. And this is when I talk about like just having like not encumbered by four walls or by spaces and all that stuff. Films at a Farm is one of our outdoor programs, but is our main outdoor program that we hold on a farm. It's literal. We are literally showing films laid back, pastoral, under the stars, beautiful outdoor setting. Like honestly, like they do films in a park, they do films at different places, but there is something about just being out there. And the other thing about that specific program is because of the space, it's a private owned farm. We really can't have more than around 40 people there, which is actually makes it even better because you have a good size audience. And that's whether that audience is 10 or 40. We don't base success on numbers necessarily always, but we also base success on the people who are supposed to be there are there. Um, I can tell you, like, it was 2 years ago. We had a screening on the farm, and it was a couple who drove in from 2 hours away from, and this is in Columbia, South Carolina, or outside of Columbia, South Carolina. But there was a couple who drove from 2 hours away in Charleston to see. We had shown one of the popular films we show every year is The Preacher's Wife. It's actually coming up this weekend at the farm, and they drove from 2 hours away to watch A Preacher's Wife with us because they were like, we don't experience this in Charleston. We don't have this type of vibe, this type of films being shown there. And so it's truly important, the work that we do, to be able to present, popular films like The Preacher's Wife, but also films like I listed here, like Black Rodeo, which is a 1971 documentary on a black rodeo took place in New York City, that the filmmaker has allowed us to show for free, because he just wants people to keep seeing it, and so we do. um, Sleeping Negro, which is distributed by Art Matin Films in New York, really powerful film. We had a nice little half-hour Q&A for that, and so on and so forth. You can go to the next slide, Molly, please. And another one of our key programs that we actually are presenting tomorrow um, is Fresh Black Films. And this is our ongoing series connecting audiences, the dynamic work of emerging Black filmmakers focused on the Northeast and the Southeast United States. When Fresh Black Films first began, it really only focused on the work of New York City Black emerging filmmakers, because that's where we were based originally. But when we decided to bring Fresh Black Films back, we were like, obviously, we had to focus on the work of Southern filmmakers as well. And so, actually, just last week, we did actually 3 screenings in the Northeast and the Southeast. And last week was our in Birmingham at Sidewalk Films Center. We had our final Southern screening, and that the filmmaker who won from that the filmmaker who won the audience award from that that's him right to the right, Justice Anderson. Um, First time filmmaker, made a beautiful, poignant film on Black men dealing with loss, and but they're not really usually able to show their grief, and it is really connected so beautifully with audiences, and he won the audience award, and that audience award comes with a cash prize, but depending on where we're showing X films. They also come with different types of sponsorship that we're able to corral for these filmmakers. So it's really about um, getting audiences to connect with the work of these filmmakers and to become literal patrons of them, to help support their work and support their films. And that's again, that's what we're all about, is like creating opportunities for audiences to connect with filmmakers, but then also to help filmmakers like really establish and grow their careers and continue their careers. And I should say emerging filmmakers does not mean for us young filmmakers. It means filmmakers who are just learning or just starting to make films or who just have not had breakout hits with their films. So like not on streaming platforms, not in like major distribution or anything like that. Um, and so yeah, so like last week we had Justice, who's I think is about 21, 22 years old. But we also had Sharoni Green, who is I believe in her late 50s, early 60s, but made a really beautiful film about uh her mother and dementia. So and this is just how you can get in contact with us, or our website has been shared. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you. But then, you can also contact us through, you can see more about everything that we do at luminaltheater.org, and we're on those three major social media platforms. You can check out a lot more about us. Thank you, everyone. Were we taking questions now? I don't know. Were we taking questions after your presentation, Molly?
Yeah, we have one in the chat if you want to answer it. Wendy
Oh,
Levy
okay.
is asking if Luminal Theater offers any trainings, classes, or workshop style programming.
Thank you, Wendy. And Wendy, love the work that you do. We have shared multiple opportunities from the Alliance over the years. We actually don't do that. Um, we thought about doing it, but there's other organizations who do that really so well. And I don't want to say they would necessarily do it better than us, although, obviously they do, so it's because we don't do it. But we kind of like we decided to like stay in our lane with exhibition and with different types of things around exhibition and filmmaker support, that we just don't really do those types of things, but we do support them. Um, and we do often share out things that for filmmakers to get that type of support. I will say what we do that's not public is that we do a good amount of mentorship with our filmmakers, and so we have an open door policy that they can contact us anytime. We can talk over stuff. We can watch things that we can watch rough cuts of their films. And again, we don't make that public, but it's just another resource that we offer to them. Anything else?
Yeah, Malkia asks, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. From your experience running Luminal, what do you think is next for growing Black Southern audiences for independent film? Is it just visibility or something else?
A great question.
Mhm.
I would say, I mean, visibility is always important. Yes. I would say I know this is what we've all spoken a lot about, but I would definitely say it's about again, it's about funding, because you can make one great film, but it's about the second and the third and the fourth and the 17th film that you can make, So it's also about just like making sure that they have access to people who can fund them as well. I mean, yes, a lot of work we do is obviously exhibition and does deal with visibility, but in addition to some of the other mentorship we do, try to help them get connection to resources that they might not have gotten um, otherwise. And references and all those types of things. We do that very often for filmmakers that are looking to get a leg up in the industry.
Okay. And you can see here, yeah, again, all the ways to stay in touch with Luminal Theater. And I can say one of the benefits of Indie Media Arts South for me has been getting to know Curtis and getting to know other people that are running arts organizations in the South. And I'll move in just to share a bit about my organization. It's Working Films. We're a national nonprofit. We're based on the coast of North Carolina, and have been since 1999 in Wilmington. I'm personally from Alabama and Georgia, and most of our staff have deep roots in the South, although we have a growing team and also have folks that are in New York and Los Angeles and in Portland, Oregon now. But essentially, Working Films exists to connect social justice with documentary filmmaking. And our work is focused on connecting movements with just what it says here, the right films at the right moment to move the dial on the biggest issues of our time. As I mentioned earlier, we've seen storytelling as just this incredible resource to bring people together, to inform them, to inspire them, to get them to take action, not just when the lights come up, but for the long haul. And our work is focused on positioning films to reach their full potential to do that. Our primary focus is on supporting underrepresented filmmakers, uplifting untold stories. We offer funding and technical assistance. We offer trainings in our methodology and in our lessons learned, which I'll go into a little bit more. And we've really prioritized accountability to the communities, to the people and places that are featured in films. And yeah, we just feel like, this is a medium that can really change the world. So we work on doing it. This is our team. Like I said, most of us are based in the South, and we have been growing for the last few years. I'll share in a little while ago, Working Films is also the fiscal sponsor of the Documentary Accountability Working Group, which myself and Hannah Hearn are a part of. And yeah, I kind of already said this, but we, feel like documentary film in particular, although in more recent years, we're working with other mediums, including a children's book, a video game, a podcast, a satirical website. But what we thrive in is kind of like lifting up storytelling that is nuanced. It shows the intersections between people and places, and it holds the potential to catalyze action for, a more just, livable, liberated future. We have these different areas of work. So we support filmmakers. We have 2 funds available to filmmakers, one for short documentaries on various themes of social importance that we announce every 2 years. Our past initiatives of a program called Docs in Action have been focused on the inequity of climate disasters, on immigrant justice, on labor organizing, in particular in places where it seems impossible, like the South. And we'll be announcing our upcoming work very, 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 very soon. We also have an impact campaign fund called Impact Kickstart. It's one of the largest funds available to filmmakers with social issue documentaries to help them kind of see their vision through, with $60,000 in grant funding, as well as a strategy summit that solidifies partnerships around the films so that they can really reach their full potential. We also support movements. We kind of do a big flip side of the support. We train nonprofits and other change leaders in how to utilize documentary film as a resource in their work, really to build the skill set and receptivity to be using films, not as a one-off event that you hold and you never, kind of build on that, but to have it be this ongoing, valuable resource in organizing efforts. The primary way we're doing this now is through a program called Rural Cinema. I think like almost a quarter of our staff at least are from, originally grew up in rural areas, including myself. And we help organizers working to address environmental injustice in their communities with $10,000 worth, actually now I think it's $16,000 worth of solar powered screening equipment. They can be used indoors or outdoors, and we take them through a training, again, in our methodology, and then support them over the course of a year to launch film series and film festivals in their small towns. And, you know, they can keep the equipment in perpetuity. They kind of then have the experience to go on and continue those film series. And now it's going in, we actually just announced this. So you can see the call for rural cinema, but all of the alumni have continued to use the equipment and have continued to use films as a resource in the work that they're doing, which has primarily been around addressing toxicity from mining or water contamination, other things that are affecting rural communities related to the environment. And we anticipate for that program, it will be broadening out to additional issues in coming years, as well as we'll be growing the number of folks that we serve. And then we also, you know, a lot of times we'll train the grantees of foundations who are interested in using film. So that's kind of how we support movements. And then field building is an area of work where we really share out the practices that we utilize and the lessons that we learn, and really have this priority on forming connections and shared power and shared movement and vision with others in the fields of documentary filmmaking and social justice. We have a lot of projects. I just named a lot of them, but you can see just kind of the array of programs that we lead that are all in those areas of work. One that I'll talk about soon is the Works in Progress Lab, which is housed here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And this is just an array of like the trainings and workshops that we offer, kind of what we train others in and facilitate, you know, it might be cohorts of grantees or cohorts of filmmakers. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts of impact campaigns, from kind of planning through evaluation, thinking about narrative shifts more broadly about, you know, what are the dominant narratives that are kind of blockades to progress, and what are the alternative narratives and values that we need to be leading the way forward, and infusing that, especially in our thematic collections of films that we fund and distribute. We also have a big focus of care and accountability in documentary filmmaking. We do trainings and fundraising for impact campaigns, which we have you know, have done for a very long time. Partnerships is kind of at the heart of everything we do. So we train up in how to have mutually beneficial and meaningful partnerships. We have a flattened leadership model with 5 executive directors. And so we offer training in democratizing arts and culture, organizations, and funding processes. One thing unique about our funding processes is that we develop our RFPs with people who are directly impacted and leading change on issues. And they also have final decision-making in the grants that we make. So for example, our most recent Docs in Action campaign is focused on police and prison abolition, which is a narrative shift program. You know, a lot of people don't see that as something that's going to happen tomorrow, but making kind of opening up imagination of what alternatives are to the prison industrial complex. And then organizations who developed the RFP for funding included like Critical Resistance, MPD 150, the Center for Political Education, and those entities, through a process that we facilitate, determine the films that are funded and then go on to utilize that. And we also build partnerships much more vast than that. We do budgeting and accounting, and again, have a big focus on evaluating impact. That's actually one of the new directorships that we have, is focused on learning and evaluation. And there's just some little, you know, just little shout out to some of the people we've worked with at the bottom. I mentioned that we're fiscal sponsors of the Documentary Accountability Working Group and are also founding members of DOG. It's something that we've brought to Indie Media Arts South, which other members have also been doing the work. DOG is not alone in pushing for attention to care and transparency and informed consent. But this is back in 2020, where a program that Working Films had prior to DOG called Story Shift. We kind of brought up a conversation about how does extractive storytelling really proliferate in the South, and what can we do about it in our practice. And as I mentioned, we're based in Wilmington. We have a local route. Anything that we do nationally has a component in North Carolina and also where we live. This is just a look at our own local screening series. On the left was last year, and we're just launching this year's series here. And another thing that we do in Wilmington is the Works in Progress program. It's a partnership with the Kukloris Film Foundation, and you might be familiar with Kukloris. They're having a festival this week, which we're excited about, but we're going into our 16th year of partnering with Kukloris on a Works in Progress program. It's focused on Black storytelling. We have a residency that we lead, and then what we do is facilitate community feedback screenings among people who have, are kind of what the key audience and desired audiences that the filmmakers are hoping to reach. So in addition to it being of benefit, the filmmakers receive mentorship from experienced filmmakers. They have workshops around planning their impact campaigns and a whole array of kind of tailored services based on what they are seeking support in. We also have these feedback screenings, and local grassroots groups and nonprofits are able to inform the direction of the films. A slide that I did not make, that I meant to make, talking about North Carolina. Some of you might be familiar with the new film, American Coup, Wilmington, 1898. It just premiered at the Hot Springs Film Festival, and Working Films facilitated an accountability process between the film team, which included PBS North Carolina and the directors Brad Lichtenstein and Yoruba Richin, as well as the participants in the film. And that's a new area of work, and we'll be touring it throughout North Carolina. I think someone might be off mute besides me, but yeah, we'll be touring that film in North Carolina. So just to give you a glimpse of kind of the array of work that we do both nationally and in the state of North Carolina and in the town where we're based in Wilmington, North Carolina. And yeah, this is how you can stay in touch with us. We're at Working Films on all our socials and workingfilms.org. So I think we have like 3 more minutes. If anyone has questions, we could open to those, and I'll stop my screen share. Awesome.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi. This is Verona from Civil Soldiers House. I just want to have the information and the contact number that I can get in contact with someone from the organization. We would like to have an awareness campaign about violence in the community, and can you give me the website or a contact number so I can, call and talk to someone?
Yeah. And are you interested in Indie Media Arts South, Luminal Theater, or Working Films, or all?
Art, yes, art and all.
Okay. Then because both Curtis and I conveniently have access to the Indie Media Arts South email address, so I am going to put that back in the chat.
Right now I'm on the street and I'm, just calling on the phone.
Okay. So maybe in follow-up, I know some follow-up materials are going to go out. So maybe that's something, if you're on the phone, that our team with IMAG can send out.
Okay, then. Okay. So they're going.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll add things from the chat to our follow-up email. We'll have slides if available, and then a recording.
Okay. So I'll check my email and I'll, see if the follow-up come to the email then.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Don't see any questions myself. We are about to have a new website at Working Films, I'll just say, and we're making some updates to the Indie Media Arts South website.
Molly, I have a quick question. Can you just talk about how you at Working Films, you are such a multidisciplinary, you've got a flat, non-hierarchical leadership model. You have so many, different types of programs. Just at a high level for maybe some of the organizations, how has this evolved? Like, what are some of the tools that help you do this type of strategic planning and shared leadership?
Okay, that's a really good question. I think what I would say is kind of a culture of internal attention and a sensitivity and mindfulness about kind of the workplace as a container in which we want to both thrive and be mission driven and do the best we can to achieve our mission, which is around how we can position storytelling for social and environmental justice. So, at Evolution, 25 years ago, we were founded by Robert West, who was the curator of the Mint Museum in Charlotte. He was a singular director. Although we've always had a culture, even under his leadership, where anyone, including interns, could bring a big idea and have input on various aspects of the organization, internal and external. So I think having that openness and respect has been a key component. Some of you may know, passed away in 2013 rather suddenly after brain cancer, and two of us came into co-directorship because that was the way that we had worked within the organization. And we also had like literal newborn babies too. So, but a mix of skill sets enabled that. And what led to our most recent shift was also just a recognition that people were holding down the key components of what make up the organization and its work. And believing in just identifying that and moving into what we believe is a more efficient structure as well is kind of what led to that piece of it. If that's what you're getting at, is essentially just looking at how people can disperse power within the organization. And so far it has been incredibly efficient for our internal operations. It's a work in progress and we're still refining things as we go. We have an incredible board, I would say too. And we have a very open with board and staff relationship. Like our board meetings are inclusive of all staff at Working Films. So there's essentially a lot of transparency. Also a lot of transparency. We're not completely flat. We do have directors, we have lead level staff, we have coordinators, and then we have contract. So it's not completely flat. And it is more of a democratized model.
Thanks, Molly.
And I think we might be at the point, correct me if I'm wrong, that I am to introduce some other brilliant folks in the South who are going to share about their work. And I believe we start with Carlton Turner with the Mississippi Center for Cultural Production, who is going to, you can introduce yourself, Carlton, and share about your work, and then I'll help you to field questions.
Hey, Molly, it's good to see you. Glad to hear all the fabulous things that are happening in Wilmington. My name is Carlton Turner. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I am the co-director and co-founder of the Mississippi Center for Cultural Production in Utica, Mississippi. I am a brown-skinned Black man wearing glasses that are not shades, but they're transition lenses, and I'm sitting in a very well-lit window. I have on a beige Nike hoodie, short cropped short haircut with curls, a gray beard that I'm sporting these days. I am excited to be here and to learn about all the wonderful work that is happening here. I want to share a little bit about what we do here at the Mississippi Center for Cultural Production, which we go by the name of CIP. So most people know us by CIP Culture, and that's the name I'll use from here out. CIP Culture was started in 2017 in my home community where my family has been for 8 generations. It's a community where I grew up, where my mother grew up and her parents grew up, and back and forth for a few generations. We started this work as an opportunity to reimagine our rural community that had been suffering from a lot of disinvestment, had lost a lot of its infrastructure in terms of the businesses. You know, specifically the work that we do is in food and story. And we were looking to address some of the issues around food security that are new issues for our community. Our community is an agricultural community that less than 35 years ago, most of the food that people ate in our community came from the community. People grew their own food, they raised their own livestock. It's a very much agricultural economy that existed in our community. And over the last 35, 40 years, bit by bit, we've lost our infrastructure to go from a place in which community members were eating about 85% of food that they grew in their community to a community that was relying on a grocery store, to having that grocery store close in 2014. And now the only thing that you have to shop at locally is a Dollar General store. And people have to travel 16 miles one way to get to a grocery store. So food was a challenge that when we came in to our community, we asked a few primary questions. We put maps on the wall in community meetings, and we asked the community to map where they lived, where they worked, where they worshiped, and where they shopped. And immediately, as people began to map these things and draw the lines into how their lives and daily lives move about, the community members began to immediately realize that the community that used to be the center of cultural production had now become a bedroom community. And it was a stark realization for a community that had a lot of pride, used to be. And so we began to also ask the question, how did the community feel about this particular identity, and whether or not it was an identity that they felt content with. And most everybody said no. And so we asked, so if you're not content, what is it that you want to be? Because that gives us the then chart and map a course to the thing that our community desires or aspires to. And that's really how the Mississippi Center for Cultural Production was born, and what is now what we call CIP Culture. So a little bit about our programming. We run a rural campus here in Utica. We have an artist residency space, which is in a home that was built in 1920. We purchased the home and renovated it into an artist residency space in our administrative offices. We also have 17 acres of green space. We have a 17-acre farm, a 17-acre green space with a 1.5-acre vegetable farm and an 1,800 square foot commercial greenhouse. There we produce food for our local community and also train farmers in sustainable farm production. So grow transplants for our farm, but also for other farms, minority-owned farms in the Mississippi Delta. We also are in the development of a cultural center. So we're now building out the Main Street Cultural Center, which will be our community's really civic space, community meeting space, but also a space where we can produce food. It will have a 1,700 square foot commercial kitchen where we'll be able to do both retail and manufacturing of food, and also presenting of art and culture. So it will have the capabilities to host events, cultural events, community conversations, and civic dialogue. And we most recently purchased a building called the Wow Building, which is the Woodsman of the World building, as the oldest building in the community, built in 1878, that we are transforming into an administrative space, and also a place for our programming with our community, digital Lab, which is a youth training program where we work to develop the basis of storytelling, digital storytelling, and agricultural production in middle school students. And it will be the home for our rural routes design lab, which is a lab that we're starting in the spring that will help to support artists that live in our region that are interested in doing similar work in their community and designing a path and being able to learn from the work that we're doing here in Utica. Our major program is our artist residency program, which is called Ripple, but its long name is the Rural Production Performance Lab. And this Ripple program is an artist residency program that supports artists in a 5-state region, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Alabama, to have space in our residency house to do their work. And so we support artists with direct funding. Artists receive direct unrestricted funds anywhere from $2,500 to $15,000. They receive support from artist advisors. In fact, I think there's one of the advisors who's on the call here, Jasmine Cannon, is one of our advisors, but also is one of our Ripple artists. They also receive support from us throughout the time period that they're working with us as artists. They are here in the space and they have access to advisors to help them think through their programs and projects. We've been doing that program since 2021. And currently we have artists in the space now. We have artists that have been here since, been coming in since August. And we've programmed our artists all the way up through December of 2025. And that program is really amazing, and definitely check it out if you're interested. We also do a number of leadership programs. We work with partners, Alternate Roots out of Atlanta, Georgia, First Peoples Fund out of South Dakota, the National Association of Latino Arts and Culture out of San Antonio, and the Pai Foundation out of Honolulu, Hawaii. And together, along with the International Association of Blacks in Dance, we host a series of leadership programs for fellows called the Intercultural Leadership Institute. And this program has been going on since 2017. And what it does is it provides intercultural programming, leadership development in place-based initiatives for about 30 fellows every year. And those fellows take to be hosted in the host communities. One of the organizations will host, and they go to 3 different communities throughout their journey, learning what leadership looks like on the ground in these cultural communities from the people that live and work there. So it's not a leadership model that looks to nonprofit institutions or to corporate governance to model leadership, but to the communities that raised us and that we come from, to identify what leadership looks like in our communities, and to uplift that leadership as a way for us recognizing our community's strengths, recognizing the leadership that is already inherently a part of our experiences, and to elevate that leadership to be the dominant frame and model by which we work across cultural landscapes. So it actually asks us to dig into our cultural framework as a place of strength in leadership, and not a homogenous leadership that all leadership should look the same. These are just a few of the programs and services. We are now in the capital campaign to finish our Main Street Cultural Center. We'll have the construction finished in January. We hope to opening somewhere in the spring, March or April. And we're really excited. Work with artists of all backgrounds. So we work with filmmakers, we work with photographers, musicians, we work with visual artists, we work with playwrights and theater artists. We will begin doing more presenting as the year, as we get into next year and our space opens up. But I'm just really excited to be here, and I guess that's enough about us. But I would love to entertain any questions if there's questions. And I see that our website has been put in the chat, as well as some of the programs that we talked about.
Yeah, if anyone has questions for Carlton, please share them in the chat. Carlton, one thing I'll just, because I don't see any, I'll just ask you a question. I've noticed in a lot of the materials of SIP culture, including your website and otherwise, there's there's translation into Spanish. I'm wondering if there's a multilingual approach in the work that you're doing. And yeah, it's just a question that I noticed and appreciate seeing that.
Yes, we are. We're trying to lean into our language justice muscle. We work with partners, and specifically the Immigrant Alliance for Justice and Equity, that's based in Jackson, Mississippi. It's an organization that was founded on the heels of the largest ICE raids in the history of the United States that happened in Mississippi, both in Hattiesburg and Carthage, Mississippi. And so we partner with them and we work with them as much as possible to both organize within our community, because there is a Spanish-speaking community here in Utica. Utica is a very small community. We have about 800 people in the town center and about 4,500 people in the zip code. But our work is both hyperlocal, it's regional, and it's national. So SIP culture, although we focus the bulk of our activities here in Utica, Mississippi, our work is done with both a regional acknowledgement and engagement to artists in a 5-state region. And we are connected to networks nationally and activate those networks to have a multi-directional engagement. So we're constantly sending artists and engaging with those networks from Mississippi. And we're trying to bring those artists and networks to Mississippi to work as well, so that our community can have connection to a much broader network of artists and creatives.
Wonderful. I think that you naturally, answered the question in the chat from Paula, which was about bridging the connection from hyperlocal to national through coalitions, which it sounds like has just been done really in an extraordinary way with SIP culture and your allies. I don't see
Hey,
any more
Paula.
questions. Oh, go ahead. Oh, hi.
I was just speaking to Paula.
Wonderful. Well, Carlton, thanks so much for joining us. We also, encourage you to be a part of Indie Media Arts South. Welcome.
Yes, I was just texting with Jasmine. I said, Jasmine, do you know about this Intermediate Arts South? We need to know about this, folks. Jasmine is both an advisor, but also a dear friend and collaborator. So we're learning. We're about to launch our Digiculture Lab this summer, and Jasmine will be there to make that work happen. So I'm really excited to be on here, and also want to shout out Eleanor Savage, one of my board partners with Grantmakers in the Arts. We do a lot there too. So just really great, and Sahar, some great folks on here. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I was peeping that participant list myself, and I admire a lot of them. I dropped in the chat the link for Jasmine and you and whomever else. And I know now we are gonna turn it over to another artist from the South. It's Kathleen Brown with the Futures Lab in Fulton County.
Hi, thank you so much. Everyone's been just so exact, like the fact that everyone exists and is doing what they're doing is bringing me a lot of joy and excitement. So thank you for sharing. My name is Kathleen Brown. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Arts Education Coordinator at the Public Art Futures Lab. And I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia, Fulton County. And just to acknowledge that the city of Atlanta stands on the ancestral lands of the Muskogee Creek Nation, who had art, traditions, and ways of life integrated with their land and had an expression of that relationship in their art. So thank you. I'm a white woman with brown hair. getting over my nerves talking to you now. So I'm excited to share this with you. I started in August, so it's fairly new to me, but the project is, it goes to my roots in DIY, curatorial, creating art and working with artists to help them expand their practice. So let me share the slide. Also, our current artist in residence, Jordan Young, is on the call.
I am here.
Can y'all see that?
It's coming on screen right now. We see it.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Okay, so Futures Lab started in 2022, and it was a Fulton County Arts and Culture project that was started due to community surveys that said that artists didn't have the space, funding, support to really like break into the public art collection. And then after COVID, after the pandemic, that really just got fully amped up. There were fewer spaces that artists could exhibit, and there was a real call for this art and tech kind of fused lab and residency space. So the three pillars are expanding access, and that means for both artists in terms of adding technology to their creative practice, but also to the community to be able to have access to new technology, VR headsets, 3D printing, things that you might see in like a maker space. And then fostering inclusivity, engaging diverse audiences, fostering collaboration, and amplifying underrepresented voices in tech-enabled art. And when we're thinking about underrepresented voices, we're also thinking about people who are left out of kind of the higher realms of art institutions. And then driving technological adoption. That is something that so in public art, there's like more public art installations that are using technology within their actual makeup. But if people don't understand how to use that technology in the work that they actually are proposing, then it can kind of cut them out of these new calls for art that need to have technology integrated into them, if that makes sense. So we are located in underground Atlanta. And as far as like spaces with many layers of history, and this is a space that was originally in the 1800s a railroad depot, and through many different eras it's had ties to gentrification getting developed over. We're in an iteration now where we were given space at a very low cost for rent to house this residency space. So what you're looking at are images of our lab, which we give to community projects that have an art and tech intersection for free. And then we have our artists teaching classes, which you'll see Jordan is in one of those photos, teaching a photo movement class. And then we open up for our own workshops that are led by staff within that space. Our artist in residency program. This is a collection of this year's artist in residence. It really, artists can apply for either the A&E Atlanta, which has a focus on the downtown Atlanta digital signage district, but it is all very fluid. There's no requirement for what they create within the 3 months using the $5,000. It's really up to them to use the space and the technology and the support we have to figure out what they want to do with that. The other residency partner is MARTA Artbound. That's with the transit, the public-private transit agencies public art program. And theirs was focused specifically on using 3D printed designs this year. And so that's an $8,000 artist in residency. These are just some great photos from the scavenger hunt where they created the little collectibles. And then we have Jordan's on the far left is a photo from one of his photo, which we'll get into how he used his residency now. So we're just coming off of Jordan's residency. I think he technically has another week, but he did so much in the time that he was there. So Jordan really incepted his residency. During his 3 months, he chose, for his first project, he chose 5 photographers and basically created a show that exhibited their work alongside interviews with each of them about their feelings on the queer nightlife scene in Atlanta, as well as just their views on art making and their place in the community. And then he also created his own miniature residency program called Artist Colliders, where he brought in 8 individuals who he didn't have a working relationship with, and he was able to give them a stipend using some of our funds as well as his own funds to support them and give them kind of these rapid iterative prompts using technology. And they generated some really awesome like artwork, but that wasn't the point. It was more to just spark an interest in using technology and then just building a community of people who are really open to being vulnerable about their art practice. These are some images on the right of just collages that Jordan put together that showcase some of the collaborations that came out of that Artist Collider project. You can see there's just like a lot of conversation. There were some VR 3D designs that got passed between artists, which was really exciting to see those come through in the VR headsets. And then this is, so A&E, Arts and Entertainment Atlanta, is the residency supporter for Jordan's residency, and they support 3 different residency programs throughout the year. They give us digital signage, like you can see on the right. That's some of Jordan's solo work that he created. He did some macro photography of irises. And then on the left, we have another artist in resident who used Azure Connect motion tracking tools to basically mimic the movements of people that it encountered on the street. So what you're looking at is a composite of movements that people would have made throughout the day interacting with this installation. And then from that piece, he created animations which live on the downtown buildings. And then this is a selection of how the MARTA Artbound, they really want to point to their own public art collection that's along the MARTA stations. So for the artists who came in, they did a scavenger hunt that sent people following different landmarks to ultimately end up at these 3D printed on our 3D printers collectibles, which people got very excited about. And just we learned that there's a whole puzzle community, people who they're not just there for the prizes, like they honestly are there because they want to meet other puzzle people. And that was really cool to break into. And I think MARTA is going to continue to do scavenger hunts as a part of their focus. The second pillar that we have is artist-led workshops, and that's where we pay artists to lead classes that have that arts and tech intersection. And we also have an outreach because Atlanta is in the center of Fulton County. So Fulton County is a very long, takes like an hour and a half to get all the way from north to south. So we do outreach. We take headsets and STEAM workshops into our Fulton County libraries. And we have plans. We're currently developing some original VR experiences that would take gallery exhibitions and have the ability to take them to places in the county where they wouldn't be able to see those, and then to view that up close in detail of the artwork as if they're really at the gallery. And then looking forward, some of our other projects we're planning are really installations that have an educational component within them. So one of them is going to be a project that's kind of like an escape room, but it's going to be a puzzle room built into underground Atlanta. And it's using 3 different alumni artists to develop these basically hack into a Toys R Us nostalgia. It's like we're still working on it. Thank you. I'm currently working on the artist in residency pitch that's coming out in January. So we'll be taking on 4 new artists in residence for that. So please, if you know anyone in the Atlanta area, please tell them to apply, follow our Instagram. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. I hope your nerves are all gone, because I think everyone is really impressed by the incredible work that you're doing there. You just spoke to a question that I had, is the fellowship program limited to kind of the area of Fulton County, or is it open more broadly to artists that would come be artists in residency or artists in residence?
Yeah, it's fairly broad. It's I think there's about 9 counties that we would consider, like, if you have any sort of relationship with Atlanta, whether that's your work impacts the communities in that area. But yeah, there's a full list of counties on our frequently asked questions for artists in residency programs on our website.
Wonderful. I encourage anyone to drop in questions, or I will just keep coming with them. One thing I noticed was the different academic partnerships and corporate partnerships, and I'm just interested to know how the Futures Lab goes about forming those partnerships, and how it's maybe mutually beneficial.
Yeah, so A&E and MARTA Artbound were initial partners. They've been there since the beginning. Our university partners, Spelman, Georgia Tech, and Georgia State, those are more in terms of collaborative. We share each other's events. We have space sharing agreements between us. Those aren't financial. It's more that we can also open up those networks to the artists in residence. So having that, resource community for them is important. And to bring up a point, when the Futures Lab was started, we had a corporate investment from Microsoft that for the first 2 years was giving about $50,000 per year to support the Futures Lab. And that was just one of those perfect timing. Microsoft was trying to integrate into Atlanta, into the art and tech scene. And so it was a kind of right place at the right time. We no longer have that sponsor. So that's been an adjustment in terms of, we're really prioritizing equipment that the artists are specifically asking for that are needed in this project. And we're maintaining the equipment that we do have very carefully. I didn't mention that we also do free equipment loans to the community. So anyone in Fulton County can borrow this equipment as if like a arts and tech library.
Wonderful. Well, you've gotten a couple questions in the chat. One from Jax DeLuca is asking, are there ways the work of the lab intersects with state digital equity programs or the NTIA Digital Equity Act programs?
I don't know. I'll have to see. I would love to know more about that.
Okay. Well, maybe Jax, sounds like you know a bit about that. Maybe you can reach out to Kathleen.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then another from Curtis is the program fully multidisciplinary?
Yes, it is. We currently have a choreographer and movement artist starting her residency. And it's not a requirement that you have to have a strong background in any sort of tech. You have to have an interest in wanting to put it into your creative practice.
Okay. That's wonderful. You're getting a lot of kudos in the chat just about how incredible the program is and of value. Some folks are just saying, like, even based on this, they hope that this is kind of thinking about innovative residencies, like what you're holding as something that maybe IMAG can feature in the future. And think that might be it. Again, shameless plug that we also hope you, Kathleen, will become a part of Indie Media Arts South. And yeah, I just really appreciate your time sharing out with us. And I am going to, I think, take back our screen share. But yeah, we're just so grateful to have you and Carlton kind of share out about your work in the South to this national network.
Yeah, this is Curtis again. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Carlton, for sharing that all your great work as well. Just want to, thank you all for being a part of what we had to present here today regarding Indie Media Arts South and all this great work that Southern artists and organizers are doing. Again, you can reach us via our website, imasouth.org, and at I am artssouth@gmail.com, right up there on the slide. I am artssouth@gmail.com. And we hope you can join. Just we actually are revamping our membership sign up, but in the meanwhile, please just send us an email. We keep good track of it, and we will add you to our mailing list for that.
Okay. And with that, we are going to pass it back to the Indie Media Arts Group team. And Dawn Valdez, I believe, is going to take it from me. But yeah, thanks, everyone.
Wow, thank you so much. What an incredible series of presentations and conversations, and definitely is getting my mind going and excited about just the mixture and multidisciplinary work that's happening. Thank you all so much. Those are really dynamic presentations. So the last part of our meeting today is for people to do any kind of community share outs, field news, resource requests. We open the floor to the full network and anyone with an announcement or an ask to the group. You can raise your hand or jump on the mic for about 1 minute. And I know there was something that Wendy Levy had said, and I'm wondering, Paula, if you'd like to share that with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dawn. I'll kick us off. If you scroll up, you will see a super detailed and exciting post from Wendy Levy from the Alliance for Media Arts and Culture, and specifically for Arts to Work. If you haven't yet heard about Arts to Work has really been pretty foundational for our industry to really understand how do we access resources to train our people and to get them into careers. And Arts to Work has done a ton of the legwork to figure out the wonkiness of working with, for example, kind of more traditional labor systems that really got started in construction and some other sectors. So Wendy talks about some of the pre-apprenticeships and apprenticeships that she's working on. And I will just say that we at BAVC, as an example, we're developing a new registered apprenticeship with Wendy and the Arts to Work model. And we also have a couple of new pre-apprenticeships ourselves in assistant editing and media production. So all that to say, it's not that hard to do. It just takes some coordination and looking at some great resources so you don't have to reinvent things for yourself. But it's a great way to get some paid work. They call it Earn and Learn for people that are coming through your media arts programs and to help them launch their careers. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Dawn.
Thanks, Paula. Appreciate you. Okay, opening the floor to anyone else who has any upcoming events or requests or things that you'd like to share with the network. Avril, looks like you have your hand up. That sounds great.
All right. Hi, everyone. We just wanted to make you aware of a federal funding opportunity that is open right now called Save America's Treasures. It's administered by the National Park Service in partnership with the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the NEA. Grants are available for two project types, preservation and collections. So preservation projects will fund the preservation and conservation of work on historic buildings and structures. But the other project type, collections, is the project type probably most relevant to this group here. And it supports physical conservation, curation, care, and collections management for historic artifacts, documents, and works of art, which includes film and other media collections. So check that out. The grants do range from $25,000 to $750,000. Applications are reviewed for historical significance, severity of threat to your collection, and quality and feasibility of your threat mitigation plan. So the application is open now until December 12th, and we will drop a link in the chat for more information.
Great, thank you so much. Next up is Justine. Yeah, tell us what you want to share.
Hi, I'm Justine Arman. I'm with ITVS, and I just wanted to share about a report for a major study that we conducted that just came out yesterday. It's called the Filmmaker Participant Relationship Unpacked, and it's a giant groundbreaking study that was supported by the NEA and the Ford Foundation. And actually, we have some partnerships with BAVC and Working Films and DOG, who helped us disseminate the survey out to filmmakers. But I'll drop a link in the chat here. We just published the study on the ITVS blog. And yeah, we're really excited to share out some of the findings. We were able to get responses from 678 documentary filmmakers and 195 participants. And it's looking at the relationship between doc filmmakers and the participants in their films. So yeah, I shared it in the chat. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
Yeah, awesome. Oh my goodness, I just saw that in my mail, in my inbox. I'm super excited to read the report. Thank you for sharing that. Brittany, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just realized I should share about the BAVC Media Maker Fellowship. We have our applications open right now. This is a intensive year-long program for directors working on their first or second documentary feature. We're looking for folks who have projects that are in production, potentially in early post, but aren't planning to finish their film in the coming year, because we start with a workshop that focuses on editing and story, and we bring in lots of filmmakers and experts in the field to support our filmmakers. We all travel to 2 festivals across the country, and we culminate with a pitch and party at the end of the year. There's a $10,000 re-grant for filmmakers that you can use however you want. And we're really excited to get your applications. Definitely let me know if you have any questions. You can reach out to me directly. I'll put my email in the chat. And those applications are due on December 9th, but I tell everyone, not just for this program, but the earlier you can get in your application, the better. I'm much more available to answer questions, not the day before. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm going to pass the mic to Jax. And I'm also going to say maybe someone wants to hop on the mic and talk about BAMs for folks who are in the Bay Area.
And before you jump off, can you also put the pitch in party? Because that is an event that's open and it's live streamed. So if you're in the Bay Area, you can come to the event. But if you're not in the Bay Area and you want to see the pitches that the BAVC Media Maker Fellows did this past year, you can check that out too. So thanks. And Jax, yeah.
Awesome. It is so great to see everyone. I've loved hearing all of these presentations. I thought I would just hop on the mic and do a quick plug just to let people know that in the middle of December, we will have the new guidelines for the FY26 Grants for Arts Projects funding opportunity online. So if you're on the IMAG listserv, but not getting the NEA Media Arts newsletter, I just wanted to put this link in here because it's two different things. One's the IMAG listserv, which is part of the Field Building Initiative, and then the NEA Media Arts newsletter has separate news. But if you want to be in the loop for when those grant guidelines go live in a few weeks, you'll be the first to know if you sign up for updates for that newsletter. So keep an eye open for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Jax. It looks like Bianca, you're up next.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for all the incredible organizing and share outs today. I'm a independent filmmaker based in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm also one of the founding organizers along with Dawn and Paula of the Bay Area Media Makers Summit, or BAMS, which we kicked off in 2022. And hosted again last year. We took a break this year to recalibrate around our resources and our staffing, but we're excited to be kicking things back off again for 2025 and are in the early planning stages for that. So we'll be doing some kickoff events here in the Bay Area in December. And I'm sure there are folks here who could speak more to that, but I will be sort of leading the organizing efforts behind the scenes on that. So I'm excited to keep folks posted and share more about it, and also to, just continue to be inspired and in connection with all of you who are doing similar initiatives in your regions.
Great. Thank you so much. I don't see any more hands up. I'm not sure if anybody else is interested, but that's fantastic. I guess just in closing, unless somebody jumps in, I think in closing, part of the reason why we were so excited to share about what's happening in the South and with IMAS is that we really want to, and now sharing what Bianca talked about, what's happening in the Bay Area, is we really want to encourage participants in IMAG to think about regional partnerships and how can IMAG be supportive of your regional partnerships. And we're happy to, obviously today we got to share some of the things that people have done in the South and why those things have been successful. And we'd love to support you in doing these kind of regional activities, events, gatherings, collective action support. We know that we have to support each other and help each other. There's no way that artists can make work without support, or for our organizations to exist without each other. So we're much stronger together than we are by ourselves. That's all I have. Thank you to all of our advisors. Thank you to the committee who helped create this agenda. Thank you, obviously, to our guests today who were really amazing and brilliant. And I guess that's it. Any last thoughts, words? Thanks so much. We'll be in touch and we'll let you know what's happening in January. I think our next meetings will be in 2025.
The January 15th is the next meeting.
Great. Thank you so much, Brittany. January 15th, mark your calendars. Awesome. Kick off the new year. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.